What's up, everybody? I have an incredible guest going to join me today, but until then, while you guys are getting on here, I'm going to play a little bit for you off of my record. This is called It's All Right Now, and you guys make some noise with your fingers.
Ladies, come here.
That's right. Hey, Barbara, George, Lisa Ricino.
They are doing it.
All right, man. Invite everybody in. We got a little party going with Elan Trotman coming up.
It's all right now.
That's what I'm talking about.
You sure
It's all right now.
I know that.
This is where the party at.
It's all right now.
2-week-old collard green. Kind of extra meat.
It's all right now.
Do it, honey.
He always wear them Japanese burger shoes.
Get down, Patrick Lamb.
Patrick. My man.
It's all right now.
Come on, sisters.
It's all
Let's
right
get down one time now. My bus transfer's been
It's
around.
all right now. It's all right now.
Right on, girl. Look here.
What's happening, everybody? How you doing?
Jiffy cornbread freezer jam.
Welcome out to the studios. We have, as you know, we have a fantastic guest today named Elan Trotman. One of my favorite voices in contemporary jazz. Has a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful tone. And he just got through producing a fantastic tribute to the late great Grover Washington. So really excited about that. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about all things Elan Trotman today. And meanwhile, Gracia, Michelle, and Carol, and Queenie Bryant, right on. Good evening. What's happening? I'm going to play a little bit more. It's called It's All Right Now.
It's all right now.
What you doing, brother?
It's all right now.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome on out.
It's all right now.
All right, I'll tell you what. You know what I'm going to do? Right before Elan gets on here is I'm going to play a little bit of his tribute to Grover Washington. Okay, so you guys can check it out. If you missed it, it was something that you should definitely check out. You can still check it out on his site. We're here. It's all things Elan Trotman today. Here is a clip from his tribute to Grover Washington that he put together. Check it out.
All right, guys. This next one is one of my favorites, even though I've played this song probably 200 or 300 times, if not more. But, you know, something about the groove and the melody and the way how our fans react to it once they hear that introduction with the vamp and the keyboards and that guitar riff, which was originally done by Eric Gale. Once you hear the song Mr. Magic start, the first 4 bars, I mean, everybody's head starts to nod, and you just never get tired playing it. This is one of the few instrumental songs that crossed over to the pop or soul charts and topped the charts, peaked at number 10 on the pop chart, which is very rare for an instrumental song to do that. So here to help me on Mr. Magic is Patrick Lamb and Kyle Schroeder, both on tenor saxophone. Enjoy.
All right, I got to turn the mic on. Hey, that is the incredible man. That guy's Kyle is a beast, and Elon just fantastic. What an amazing saxophonist and producer. And the man of the hour, it's all things Elon today. We're just going to be talking with him a little bit. He's become a friend. He was kind enough to invite me on to his show, a tribute to the late great Grover Washington. And so I'd like to bring him on the show. We're just going to hang and talk about what's going on in his life and things he's producing. And before he comes on, though, I got to tell you a little bit about him. So he's fast become. This is from his bio. He's fast become one of the fastest rising stars in jazz with over 10 Billboard topping radio singles. And his latest release and summer tour, Dear Marvin, pays tribute to Motown legend Marvin Gaye. And obviously, a lot of you know now about his tribute to the late, great Grover Washington. He's got a great blend of smooth and tropical grooves, which we're going to talk to him a little bit about. I think one of the things that I like about him so much is just the beautiful tone that he has. There's so many saxophonists out there, and not all of them you can instantly recognize. But he's definitely one of those people. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Mr. Elan Trotman. Elan, how you doing, man? What's happening? Can you hear me okay?
Hey, how are you, man?
Doing good, man. There's so many questions people are emailing me about you. They want to know about you. Thanks for being on the show. I'm the hugest fan of your the things you've been putting together, and thank you for having me a part of your tribute to Grover Washington. So a lot of the fans are sending me questions. They want to know all things Elan about what's going on with you, how you're doing during this time, and then but specifically the Barbados connection. Can you fill us, for those of you who don't know Elan and don't know all the fantastic details and where this all comes from, maybe you can fill us in a little bit about where the Barbados connection comes in with your soul.
Sure. Well, I consider myself to be one of the trailblazers when it comes to fusing the music of the Caribbean with jazz and with contemporary jazz and with soul music. So I try to make sure that there's that element of, tropicality in my music, definitely in my last couple of projects. And I was born in Barbados, which is a small island in the southern Caribbean, about 250,000 people. And I went to high school in Barbados and then moved to Boston when I was 17 years old. So, it's still home. My family's still there. I do a lot of charitable work there. And like I said, I always try to bring that aspect of my life, which is the calypso and the reggae and the tropical music, into my compositions and into my recordings.
I got to say, that's one of the things that I think the whole world could use right now is just that happiness you feel when I listen to that kind of music. It just, my heart just, it comes up. And can you just tell us a little bit about what do you think, if you put it into words, what is it that music brings? And all things now, of course, it's even more important than everything with all the crazy stuff going on, the universal language of music and coming together. But what do you think specifically to the island music that's specific to that brings to, well, your music and then, the world? How about that?
I think it stems from the culture. The weather's warm and usually pretty nice except for hurricane season. But I think people just have this, this expectation that once you step off the plane or you step off the cruise ship and you get to a tropical destination, that, you're going to have that special drink with an umbrella sticking out of it. You got the white stand, the blue waters, 90 degrees. And the music has to match what you're seeing, what you're tasting, what you're smelling. So you hear the steel drums, you hear the calypso beat, you see bright, vibrant colors. It all kind of works together. And to top it off, I think people in general are just so much more laid back and upbeat and friendly. So a lot of my music is actually written in major keys because it's very simple. It's diatonic, if you want to dive into the musical terms, and it's just very simple melodies, but driven by that tropical groove and rhythm.
It's happy music, isn't it? I mean, I can't think of. I'm sure it probably. Actually, it's a great question. Are there any really sad calypso songs from? I mean, I can't. You would know.
Yeah,
Are there?
probably. There's probably one or two songs about, the Jamaican farewell. Sad to say I'm on my way, won't be back for many a days. That one's like a medium tempo, but it's still in a major key. You know, so the lyrics,
Even the sad songs are
yeah, even the sad songs are
in a major
still
key. Hmm.
still so upbeat and happy. But again, I think it comes, like I said, from just the whole mindset. People are really friendly. You land in Barbados and you can stop anyone on the street and ask them a question, and they'll be friendly. They'll stop whatever they're doing and greet you with a smile. The hospitality is great, and it comes out in the music.
Yeah, and in the end, at least for me, and you could tell me. I mean, when you're playing music, when I'm playing music, I want to create joy. This sounds kind of trite, but we're all in the happiness business, sort of in a way. And the calypso is so in line with that. I just worked on a project with Michael Thompson. We had Philippe Sayas do some marimba, and it's so funny that I'm talking to you now about this because we all talked about it. We're like, what I really like to do is I'd like to take everybody, like all God's children, to an island far, far away from this nuttiness, right? Anyway, but the whole island thing is something that's been really relevant to just a place to take everybody to. So, but combined with that, you have quite the education because you ended up going to Berkeley College of Music, which a lot of really top-notch musicians have come from. Take us from the island to Berkeley. How did that? And how old were you when you left Berkeley? I mean, left the islands and headed over to Berkeley.
Yeah. Well, I remember like it was yesterday. I was 17 years old. I started Berkeley in the spring semester of 1998. So I went from 90 degrees to 30 degrees. It's my first time seeing snow, and it was just a huge transition for me. My first night in the dorms, I smelled this fragrance that I never smelled before. And I saw my roommate smoking from a big old bong. And, it was like a 17-year-old kid, welcome to the real world. But once I stepped foot on the campus and I started to dive into the records, I bought a real book and started learning all the standards, going to jam sessions. I declared my major as a music education bachelor degree. So I did a lot of education-based classes, conducting for vocals, for beginner band, orchestra, chorus. And I've been able to use that education to teach in the Boston Public Schools for many years. And I'm currently taking a break and focusing on my playing career as a recording artist.
Well, music education is so important. Now, I didn't go to Berklee College of Music, but I did go there with Bobby Caldwell doing a master class, and I was impressed with just the state of the art. I mean, anything you can possibly imagine or to create technologically or musically. I mean, they have the best engineers. I mean, people who have invented the preamps, that we're working with are teaching there. Like you can talk to them about how they did it. And so what a fantastic place to be able to choose whatever it is that you want to focus on. Do you feel like that helped in getting the big picture and then kind of focusing in really specifically on what you wanted to do?
That's a great question. I actually had this conversation with one of my students in Barbados earlier today. He's 17. He's thinking about going to Berkeley. He was asking me if he should major in performance or production or education. And, I try to deter my students from focusing on performance majors because Berkeley's environment is so rich with playing that especially if you're staying on campus in the dorms, I mean, I learned more from jam sessions, late night jam sessions with my peers than I did from sitting in a classroom at Berkeley. So the environment is rich with some of the best students from all over the world. And, there's a couple spots you can go sit in, do open mic, and really great environment. And then top that, you focus on a specific major, a field, And for me, I chose education because I wanted that job security. Touring I was a little intimidated to just leave college and try to find a gig, and not know how I'm going to provide for my family. So I chose education. That's what I told him. I said, do something that you can fall back on. And this is a prime example of what we're dealing with right now, where nobody's gigging. And it's always good to have something to fall back on. That's what I told him. So, but overall, I would highly recommend Berkeley if you're into, contemporary music, if you're into production. They have a pretty wide curriculum of majors that you can choose from.
Yeah, and then so in terms of education, let's talk about that for a minute. About just why it's so important to music education. I like to whittle things down to simple sayings so that they get the meaning across. But in short, nobody comes to your house when you're 12 years old and is like, hey, Patrick, would you like to play the saxophone? I mean, it has to be part of the construct of your school and your educational process. Otherwise, you would never know, right? I mean, how did you get introduced to the saxophone? What was that day?
Well,
Was there a day? Do you remember?
I was always exposed to music. I had a keyboard in my house. I had a guitar in my house from like 5, 6 years old. My parents enrolled me in piano lessons when I was around 7 years old. So that got me introduced to just basic theory, just reading music and understanding theory. Then once I got to middle school, the first band instrument that was available was a euphonium. So I actually played brass for a couple years. I played euphonium, I played valve trombone, I played French horn, and then eventually a spot opened up in the woodwind department. But the entire time I had my eyes on the saxes because I was like, man, that's just a cool looking instrument, and I love the way it sounds, the breath, just the woodwind sound, how it just feels so connected to your voice and your body. And when I was about 13, 14, I saw Grover Washington Jr. perform in Barbados. I saw Najee perform, and those guys definitely helped to cement, my dream of wanting to be a saxophone player.
Wow. Well, so I'm going to segue for 1 second. Now, you sent me several different videos and different information stuff. So just in the spirit of having fun with that, I'm going to play. I'll let you choose what you'd like me to play. I've got, and then you set it up, talk about it a little bit. So I've got Funkalypso video, and I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I want to play a little bit for everybody so we can get kind of a comprehensive all things Elan
Sure.
thing here. So I've got Funkalypso, I've got to Give It Up, and I've got Island Gal. Now my tendency is to lean towards Island Gal just because we're talking about. Okay, so set this up for us, like in 10 seconds. Tell us about this video I'm about to play.
Sure. That track was produced by Corin Henley. Is a great drummer and producer. He's currently based in Nashville, but he went to Berkeley with me. A lot of times I reach out to young cats that like to make beats, as we call it, and they have these huge libraries of songs and little, hooks and stuff like that. So I reached out to him, and I think he might have built that one especially for me, and then I wrote the melody to it. So he sent me the music, and then I wrote a melody to it, and the music video was actually filmed in Barbados.
Okay, here we go, guys. It's called Island Gal. right, everybody. That's Elan Trotman's Island Girl. And, all I can say is that's where I'd like to go right now. If we could just all go out to the beach. And I noticed you just kind of stopped in the video and you just kind of asked that girl for directions. You're like, it looked like it. And then there just happened to be a piano player. Man, you're smooth.
Kind of.
You're smooth, Elan. Anyway, no, I know you're a family man. I'm just having fun. But talk to us a little bit about. That's a perfect segue
Well,
to the
let
other
me
side.
let me explain the concept. So I was walking down the beach playing. I happened to stumble across her. She happened to be listening to my CD, Electro Sax. So she pointed to the back of it, and I asked her what was her favorite tune. She says, Island Gal. I said, well, hey, I'm going to meet my buddies, and we're going to jam on the beach. So that was the whole concept. That's how it's supposed to be interpreted.
Oh, that's so cool, man!
Yeah.
I'm just craving some beach right now. I'm sorry, it just looks like so much fun. So you are a family man. Can you give us just a little bit? Talk to us about your family and what it's like being a musician. I mean, I don't have children, but I have so much respect for anybody that has kids at all.
Yeah.
And then to be a musician and have kids, hey, maximum
Yeah.
respect. So talk to us.
I'll tell you what, man. These past 3 or 4 months have been a welcome change. I'm used to being home mostly Monday through Thursday and then being on the road on weekends. But for the past 3 months, I've been home a lot. And, we've been finding ways to, just occupy each other's time and do fun things and just, try not to get bored of each other. But it's definitely been a fun time being able to be at home. I got my wife of 16, 17 years, my kids 14 and 13. And, they're enjoying having me at home. I'll say that for sure.
Man, that's fantastic. How about now? You live in Boston, right? Is that right?
Yeah,
So
I've been here ever since I came to Berkeley.
How do you deal with all those circles, man? Driving, like I made the mistake of renting a car. My grandmother lived out there for a while, and I started on one side of the river, and then I only had to go like 6 blocks. But by the time I was done, I was like across the river.
Right.
And
Well, nothing's as bad as New York City, so I get anxiety when I drive in New York City. But I guess Boston does have a little bit of a grid as well. I don't go downtown that much. I live just outside of Boston, in a city called Hyde Park, and I don't really have a need to go into the city because I always get parking tickets when I go down there.
Yeah. Well, hey, so I have 2 more videos. Just gonna run a couple of pieces of it. So, Funkalypso and Got to Give It Up. Where do we go next? You choose.
I think you played a little bit of Funkalypso on the trailer for the show, so why don't we do Got to Give It Up?
Okay, and set this up for us. For people who don't know, what
Sure.
should we know about this particular?
This is from the Dear Marvin album. Marvin Gaye tribute album came out 2 years ago on Marvin's 80th birthday. This is the first single, and one of my favorite Marvin tunes for sure.
Got to Give It Up, Elan Trotman. Here it is. Right on. We're hanging out with Elan Trotman. That is off of his video, Got to Give It Up. And you have a lot of soulful inspiration. Of course, some of the people are going to listen to that and they're going to go, hey, hey, hey. But it's not. That's not that song. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But talk to us about your inspiration. You kind of channel that vibe a little bit. I think it's okay to say Marvin Gaye vibe. How did you get inspired by him? Other than I guess the obvious, just soulful, incredible nature of his music.
Well, once I decided that I was going to be doing the tribute album, I just picked 11 of my favorite Marvin songs that I thought would translate well being played on the sax, because some songs, don't always work out when you try to play them instrumentally.
Isn't that true? A lot of people don't realize that. They're like, wow, you should do that song, but then you play the melody and it's just so... what's the right word? Because you want to be respectful, because it works like when you sing it or as some kind of James Brown percussive thing, but then when you play it, it just sounds like kind of hokey, right? People
like Uptown Funk. It's like not many notes. It's just not very musical to play on certain instruments. So I picked the songs that I thought would work well, and we brought in some string players from the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and we really try to create an album that was a true representation of the sound of the original record, and I had a lot of fun doing it. But throughout the process, I took a lot of time to study Marvin's approach, his vocal approach. His melodies were kind of very improv based. He would sing one line and then he would change it the second time. It was almost like he was ad-libbing as he was going along, and even his background vocals as well. They kind of just floated. And in order for me to be true to that, I printed out the words for each song. And as I was recording in the studio, I was actually looking at the lyrics, trying to match, because people like to sing along when you play a cover, they want to sing along. So if you don't play the right lyrics or the right phrasing, it's not going to match what they're used to hear.
Yeah, and it's to all those young kids out there, right? It's so important to learn the melody. I've learned that from a lot of the singers, because I've been touring with singers for, oh my gosh, as long as I can remember. Bobby Caldwell, Diane Shure, after she won her second Grammy, and now Gino Vanelli for the last 12 years. So, in order to have a good reference of what you're going to play in relation to it, you actually have to learn the melody, right?
Agreed.
So, what else would we say to these young cats out there? Because some people are just they just want to play and it's all about soloing. But no, it's about, with the great artists of our time, it's really about, not to say they can't get out, because you take somebody like George Benson, for example, and not everybody knows he's one of the most adept, incredible guitarists of our time. He can sit down and play on giant steps, but when he's playing a song, it's all about the song, So, do you agree?
Definitely. I agree. That's the first thing I tell my students, man. Pay attention to detail. I just did a challenge on Instagram for the solo on I Will Always Love You by Kirk Whalum.
I love that. I saw that thing. I saw your interview with Kirk. Oh, my gosh. How beautiful. It was live, right? Wasn't it live?
Yeah. Yeah, I did a live
so
interview
sick.
with Kirk, and we talked about it. He did that in one take, man. One take. But, I try to play along to it, and I learned so much by doing that, because you start to understand the person's melodic approach, how they bend certain notes, their dynamics, the articulations, just like how we speak, when if you learn a new language, you want to speak like the French speak. You want to speak like the Italians speak. So I did this challenge, and a couple of kids went on there and they did their interpretation of it. And I told them, I said, pay more attention to detail, because that's the whole point of transcribing or learning a melody verbatim, is that you really want to capture the essence of what that person was trying to say musically.
Yeah, because it's all in the inflections and the approach and the every little thing. And of course, like with Kirk, who's Kurt Whalum, he's one of my favorites too. He brings that language of the church. And if you've been in church, you recognize it, and you're like, oh yeah, I gotta you know, and if you're going to learn that, either you got to be in the church or you got to just write it out verbatim. You know,
Yeah, that's what makes
his
Kirk so
his
unique,
language.
man.
Yeah.
Culturally, coming from that call and response, from that soulful, from that blues, and it's just he sings through his instrument, man. There's no one that approaches the saxophone like Kirk, and I think it's definitely because of where he comes from for the gospel music background.
Can I get an amen? Yes, yeah, amen. Hey, so talk about some of the people you've toured with. Just freestyle. I see a list here: Roberta Flack, Jeffrey Osborne, Johnny Gill, Peebo Bryson. Wow, talking about melody, man. Holy smokes! I mean, just
Yeah.
like precision. It's so interesting because every artist is different. Michael McDonald, Jonathan Butler, Sheila E. and her old clue. Any stories you want to share, or just important things that you would? I really like
Yeah.
this program in context of sharing with any young people that might be listening to. It's like what have you learned, or lessons that you hope other people don't have to learn the hard way, or what do you think from all these artists that you worked with?
Well, number one is, put the work in to be ready when you do get that phone call. Practice your skills, playing all the keys, be professional, learn to be on time, dress well. Those are the things that will make it easier for you to keep the gig once you do get that phone call. But each artist has something really unique about them that we can all take something from them, whether it be on a business level or whether it be on a musical level. Someone like Peebo Bryson, when you hear Peebo sing and then you hear him play the guitar or play the piano, you understand why he's so accurate with his vocal riffs and the notes that he's trying to hit, because he's a musician. He understands harmony, and he has the background on harmonic instruments. So that's another thing I suggest to students. It doesn't matter if you're a drummer, you should understand harmony, as music is not just rhythm. It's harmony, it's melody. And so I've learned something from each and every one of them. By far, Jonathan Butler is one of the most talented individuals I've ever worked with. It's so weird to be on stage with someone that you're working for and you're mesmerized at the same time. Like every night you're in awe of what they're doing musically. It just gives you goosebumps because you know that they have something special, that it's just almost outer body, man. It's crazy.
Well, he's connected. When you play with somebody like Jonathan, it's like continuous goosebumps, right?
Yeah,
You're like,
for sure, man.
You're like connected to them. Yeah, I don't know, how you describe it, but
Well, you call it what you want. I definitely think it's outer body, man. It's supernatural. He definitely has a special connection. And also Michael McDonald, strangely enough, when we worked together on the Dave Cos cruise, Michael, you would think that he grew up playing in a little Baptist church somewhere in the South, man, because he's so soulful and he plays the piano like a little old lady in the church choir, man. It's crazy. But he has, if not the most recognizable, unique voice, one of them in the business when it comes to male vocalists. His voice is like so unique. It's crazy.
I know totally, absolutely, unequivocally only one. Like you hear it, you're like, oh, that's Michael.
Well, James Ingram was a little close to Michael McDonald.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. So many great voices and talents. So, by the way, speaking of talents, since this is all things Elan, I tried to do my homework. I hope I'm doing a good job here. This is the last thing I thought I would ever be doing, by the way. I've been used to doing 150, 200 dates a year. But this is fun. I've gotten to know so many people now. And another interesting thing about you is that you are a fantastic artist. You guys, here's my fun facts here. Watch, I even have let's see here. I think I even have a little, no, I can't find it, dang. Oh yeah, here it is.
I think I still got paint in my fingertips from today.
Yeah, so I want you guys to check a little bit of this out. I'm going to scroll through it, and then you can tell us a little about your artistic endeavors with the paintbrush. Here we go. There you go. That's Elan Trotman. Talk to us about your artwork. Who knew, right? I mean, you just unbelievable. You're a Renaissance man. I mean, by definition. So how did this come about? What kind of art do you do, and where can people check it out?
Well, I attribute this part of me to my father, because he was, always dabbling with, paint around the house, on canvas, acrylic mostly. But when I was in high school, I did a lot of ceramic stuff, with pottery and clay. I didn't do much painting, but I have to say, man, I don't know, and I'm sure you can probably attest to this as well, that the quarantine has kind of forced us to dig a little deeper, into our creativity and find ways to express ourselves, and also ways to just, not get bored and not go crazy. So art was, I don't know what triggered it, man. I really don't. I think I might have been watching a Miles Davis documentary, and I saw some of Miles's pieces, but sometimes it doesn't take much to kind of just spark, an idea inside that will grow, and so it was like a domino effect. Once I did my first piece, next thing I knew, I had a collection of over 30 pieces. I kept going out and buying more canvases. And then once people started to inquire about purchasing them, I was like, oh, wow, this is serious. So I started getting bigger canvases. Now I worked my way up to like 48-inch canvases. I started with just like, 12 by 14. So now I'm using more paint, obviously. But, art is expression, just like music. And I want to be able to leave my legacy behind, a body of work that can be around long after I'm gone.
Right on. So got some questions about that from the people. What's the medium that you
Okay,
do,
good question. So it's acrylic paint, and it's on stretched canvas, but I don't use paintbrushes that much. I use some sand, so it's almost like three-dimensional. So there's a lot of sand or gravel that's mixed in with the paint that kind of lifts the piece from the canvas. So none of my work is flat. There's some kind of movement that comes out of the canvas. And also, I use a lot of glitter and different effects. But yeah, I don't really do much brush painting. I use my fingers, and I use, like I said, a lot of sand and glue. So it's a little different.
Wow. So Michelle Matole Ferguson says she wants to know if you did all these paintings during quarantine.
Yes, I've done all these paintings within the last 2 months.
Man, drop the mic. Okay, that's unbelievable. That is astounding. Wow.
I just did a really cool one yesterday. I'll show it to you on my phone. This one right here. Most of it is abstract because I'm not trained in doing like, people's faces or bodies, so my proportions might be a little funky. But I did this one with a golfer, and this one actually sold to one of my golf buddies the other day. How's the lighting on that? It's a little funky.
Yeah, we can see it. Oh wow.
Okay. Yeah. And then I just did this one yesterday. This is a violin or a viola, I guess. So this one is trying to get rid of the glare.
Yeah.
There we go.
Wow. Very creative. You're a busy man, and you're a
Did
golfer
this one
too.
today.
Harmony, melody, and music. That's beautiful.
Yeah, man.
Beautiful, man.
So
Renaissance man.
can I tell you where you can see more of those pieces?
Yes, please. Everybody wants to know.
All right. It's a private group on Facebook, so you have to request to join, and it's called Elan Trotman Quarantine Art Group.
Everybody got that? Elan Trotman Quarantine Art Group. Fantastic. Well, Elan, man, thank you so much for just spending some time with us today. And this has been a fun journey to get to know you a little bit more. And I hope we can see each other in person at one of these island getaways and music. as soon as God's willing, and we're just very, very grateful. So stay in touch. And where can people obviously stay in touch with you? At elantrotman.com or on Facebook, right?
Yes, elantrotman.com is the best place to find me, or on all social media. And I definitely want to thank you for the invitation. You are definitely one of the first guys that, made a conscious decision to do some weekly appearances on here, and you've been true to it. You've been keeping your content interesting, and the performances are always on point, man. So kudos to you, and thanks for keeping us entertained, because Lord knows we need it right now, man. Everybody's missing being on stage, and this is what's getting us through right now. So thanks for doing that, Patrick.
Thank you, Elan. You've been such a gentleman, such a friend, and love your music and everything you're doing. And keep doing it. Let's talk soon, okay? God bless, and good night to you. I'll talk to you hopefully shortly. See you
All
soon.
right, take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. How about that? That was Elan Trotman. What a gentleman. What a fantastic, wonderful human being. Hey, I'm just going to play a little bit of music for you. I want to, and before we jump off of here, write your information in the comments, what you think about the show. If you got questions for Elan you'd like me to forward, this is a song called Hill Street Blues. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. That's a song I worked on here during the lockdown, just for you. And I got some great news. I just got an email from Dave Cause, and he's going to be featuring the new single on XM Radio. Let's see here, this Sunday, I believe. That's right. So tune in to the Thompson Lamb Project in the Dave Cause Lounge called Cocoa Butter. It's going to be featured Sunday, June 28th, 2020, 9 a.m. PDT, 12 noon Eastern Time. So check that out. I was going to say, people are not getting announcements before shows, huh? Okay. We'll post this on Elan's link. Okay, yeah, I got that. All right, great. Well, hey, everybody, you can check this out on youtube.com/Patrick Lamb, and on Twitter and on Twitch. And make sure to hit the subscribe button, okay? Hey, before we get on out of here, I'm going to share with you the new single video. If you haven't seen it, it's with Michael Thompson, Philip Sayce, John Robinson, and it's just a fabulous new single that we have out. So make sure to check that out. The Thompson Lamb website looks like this: ThompsonLambProject.com. And so, hey, we're going to say goodnight to everybody. Hey, write me something in the comments. And God bless all of you.
Get on up and shake your sacred.
And good night to you.
He sure is funny. I know that.
This is where the party at.
Patches